Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 We're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10, Text 14. Chapter 10 is entitled Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Okay, so today is September 3rd, 2021. So text 14. Adi Devam Atha Adhyatmam Adibhutam Iti Prabhu Atha Ekam Purusham Viryam Sridha Abhidyata Tat Shrinu Adideva Matadhyatmam Adibhutam iti Prabhu Ataikam Purusham Viryam Trida Vidyata Tatrinu Adideva Matadhyatmam Adibhutam iti Prabhu Ataikam Purusham Viryam Trida Vidyata Tatrinu Adidaiva Matadhyatmam Adibhutam iti Prabhu Ataikam Purusham Viryam Trida Vidyata Tatrinu Adidaiva Matadhyatmam
Adibhutam iti Prabhu
Adibhutam iti Prabhu
Ataikam Purusham Viryam
Ataikam Purusham Viryam
Trida Vidyata Tatrinu
Trida Vidyata Tatrinu. Adidaiva Matadhyatmam Adibhutam iti Prabhu Ataikam Purusham Viryam Trida Vidyata Tatrinu
Adidaiva Matadhyatmam
Adidaiva Matadhyatmam
Adibhutam iti Prabhu
Adibhutam iti Prabhu
Ataikam Purusham Viryam
Ataikam Purusham Viryam
Trida Vidyata Tatrinu
Trida Vidyata Tatrinu. Would someone online like to recite?
Adidaiva Matadhyatmam
Adidaiva Matadhyatmam
Adibhutam iti Prabhu
Adibhutam iti Prabhu
Ataikam purusham viryam.
Ataikam purusham viryam.
Vida vidayata chachinu.
Tvida vidyata tatrinu.
Adidaiva matadhyatmam.
Adidaivam atadyatmam.
Adibhutam iti prabhu.
Adibhutam iti prabhu.
Ataikam purusham viryam.
Ataikam purusham viryam.
Ida vidyata tatrinu.
Tvida vidyata tatrinu. We'll go to the word for word. Adidaivam,
Adidaivam,
the controlling entities.
the controlling entities.
Ata,
Atah,
now.
now.
Adhyatmam,
Adhyatmam,
the controlled entities.
the controlled entities.
Adibhutam,
Adibhutam,
the material bodies.
the material bodies.
Iti,
Iti,
thus.
thus.
Prabhu,
Prabhu,
the Lord.
the Lord.
Ata,
Atah,
in this way.
in this way.
Ekam,
Ekam,
one only.
one only.
Purusham,
Parusham,
of his lordship.
of his lordship.
Viryam,
Viryam,
potency.
potency.
Tridha,
Shriya,
in three.
in three.
Abhidyata,
Adiyat,
divided.
divided.
Tat,
Ta,
that.
that.
Shrinu,
Shrinu,
just hear from me.
just hear from me.
Translation. Just hear from me how the potency of his lordship divides one into three, called the controlling entities, the controlled entities, and the material bodies, in the manner mentioned above. There's no purport. I'll go to the next verse, text 15. Antasharira akashat purushasya vichestata ojasaho balam jagye tattaprano mahanasu. From the sky situated within the transcendental body of the manifesting Mahavishnu, sense energy, mental force, and bodily strength are all generated, as well as the sum total of the fountainhead of the total living force. Text 16. Anuprananti yam prana pranantam sarva jantushu apanantam apananti naradevam ivanuga. Translation. As the followers of a king follow their lord, similarly, when the total energy is in motion, all other living entities move. And when the total energy stops endeavoring, all other living entities stop sensual activities. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The individual living entities are completely dependent on the total energy of the Supreme Purusha. No one has independent existence, just as no electric lamp has independent effulgence. Each and every electrical instrument depends fully on the total powerhouse. The total powerhouse depends on the reservoir of water for generating electricity. Water depends on the clouds depend on the sun depends on creation, and the creation depends on the movement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all causes. Hare Krishna. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Kadamayan Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Sta Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatayubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yutamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Hare Krishna. So we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10, entitled Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. And we read here text 14, 15, and 16. And so there's this theme of Adibhautik, Adidevik, and Adhyatmika, okay, and so it could be some these sophisticated terms, and the principle that comes to me is dependency, and in text 16, Prabhupada writes a purport that, like we say, my eyes, I have great vision, okay, but it's all dependent on the sun, right? And so my hearing, but there's this whole system of demigods, and a little while ago, we had a class about the food chain. So it's about dependency. It's the food chain. Astani sahastanam apadanam chadus padam matam tatra palguni jivo jivasya jivanam. So material existence means one living entity's food for another. Right? So like the bird finds a worm. So the bird is the Adidevic personality, the controller, and the worm, the worm is the Adhyatmic personality, and one body eats another. So the bird is thinking, I am powerful, I am perfect, powerful, I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer. But there's a cat. Okay, there's the cat pouncing. So then the bird is then the Adidevic personality, like that. Okay, so the cat's the supreme controller. The cat's the supreme controller. But then there's the dog. Okay, like that. All right, so we can say, okay, well, these are animals. So Krishna describes, he gives the soliloquy of the demon in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Shvaroham ham bodhisoham balavan sukhi. I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer. Yes, I am the Adidevic personality. So that's kind of material mentality. And then, I just read it in 1960, Back to Godhead, and Prabhupada, he's giving purports to Nectar of Devotion. This is before he printed the summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 10 years later or so. And so Prabhupada talks about, if someone, if someone is, if someone's thinking that there's no power beyond them, he compared, like it's like a mad person in a madhouse, right, in a mental institution. like a mad person. I am Napoleon. I don't even have to say that. You all know that already. And we're going into Russia now. I'm going to conquer. I am Jesus. Excuse me. So like that. So the really thing, like I'm this. I am God mentality. And even if we look, yeah, well, that's just like extreme, severe mental aberration, psychiatric illness. Even if we look at let's call it modern empirical positivist science, the idea there is that the epistemology, the way of knowing that's used to study everything. It's scientists, like the religion, the blind religion of so-called science, it's this, the modern empirical method, which has its uses, particularly for objects that are inferior to the researcher, inferior in the sense of less consciousness, like a rock. Okay. So then if we follow this, so then the mentality that, well, we can study everything by this, and anything that doesn't fit into the system doesn't exist. So essentially what I'm saying there is anything inferior to me cannot possibly exist. It's another way of saying, I am God. I am the supreme control.
Anything superior. Yeah, no,
What's that?
anything superior.
Oh yeah. Yeah, anything, excuse me. Yes, anything superior to me cannot exist. Right? That's what, because I'm choosing a method to know about consciousness. That's why that method, that empirical method, it's relatively effective for studying objects. Sometimes it's described objective science, but not good at all for studying subjects with a subjective consciousness. Right? That's why psychology, politics, economics, they're called inexact sciences, because there's this troublesome thing called consciousness involved. There's this troublesome thing. Consciousness. Okay, so then to study the supreme consciousness, or the possibility of a supreme consciousness, it's like, it's just like, if we have a flashlight, it's just like, we can only see this little circle, this little circle there. Right? Okay, why are you only looking under the streetlight to find your lost keys? Well, because that's where the light is. Okay, well, there's this whole other realm that's much more vast. So Prabhupada's indicating, like, actually, this whole I am God thing, whether it's in terms of scientism or spiritual philosophies, where the goal is I am God, Prabhupada said, this is madness. This is madness. And then Prabhupada says, so like if there's a madman in the madhouse, the solution is not to kill him. The solution is to cure him. So Prabhupada, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha, he came to cure the madness. He came to cure the madness. So let's look at that further. That's what we'll do for the next few minutes, to cure the madness. So, okay, so this is, so Adidevik, Adibhatik, Adhyatmika, the controller of the bodies, so they're all dependent on one another, right? They're all dependent on one another. And so as long as our sense or our experience of dependency or shelter is in any of that, then we're going to be insecure. Okay, so we can take this rather sophisticated philosophy and just, so how does this practically relate to me from the sky situated within the transcendental body of the manifesting Mahavishnu? Sense energy, mental force, and bodily strength are all generated, as well as the sum total of the fountainhead of the total living force. So we might respond, huh? what's that? What has to do with me? So whether in coaching or seminars. So this is a pretty common problem. People feeling insecure. Everyone here feeling insecure, fearful, anxiety, insecure. And right. Or even if like, I don't feel insecure, I feel confident. There's a saying, confidence means so far, no one has found out. Let that one sit for a while. Okay, so I'm confident. Okay, and we don't need to explain it. Yes, so that's why it's described in the Bhagavatam. Even material confidence, material happiness, material compassion, it's all based on the mind. It's all based on, it's not the actual self experiencing security. And that's because our dependency, whether we've thought about this or not. And I can say, till I came to Prabhupada, I didn't think about these things. And I grew up like in an educated household and like that. And then let's say after, so getting with high school, my set of friends in high school, we were intellectuals. And in college, I took philosophy courses, but I can say we didn't think about these things. We didn't think about these things. Prabhupada uses the term intellectual animalism. If our so-called intellectualism, if it's just around how can the adibhatik, how can the body be more comfortable in our eating, sleeping, mating, and defense arrangements. Intellectual, it's just the bird searching for the worm and scared of the cat. That's us. In human life, there's something more possible. Shotavyadani, Rajendra, Rinam, Shanti, Sahasrasam, Apashitamat Matatvam, Griheshu, Grihamedina. Shukadev Goswami says, in material society, and this was 5,000 years ago, there are thousands and thousands of topics to discuss, and they're all centered around Grihamedi. They're all centered around glorified forms of eating, sleeping, mating, defending, topics that are devoid of Atma Tattva, topics that are devoid of inquiry into the actual tattva, truth of the self. So, okay, so we're looking at security. So security comes when we're dependent on that which is not dependent on anything. As long as our attempt at shelter is in something that itself is dependent in the food chain, then we're going to feel insecure. It was a week or two ago, I gave a class, use the analogy of like driving in a car that has a bomb, right? And so we can try to numb ourselves, have a good time, it's my car. But at some level, we know this bomb's going to go off. There's another verse right in the first chapter of Canto 2. Also, Shukadev Goswami speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. Dehapatya kala tradish. Yatma sanyesh vasatspapi. Tesham pramato nidanam pasyan apina pashyati. So it's described that like material society, human society, it's like taking shelter, trying to take shelter in what he uses the term infallible soldiers. Atma sanyesh vasats, fallible soldiers. My family, my body. My children will take care of me. I got it. My spouse, my community. but we see that these are all fallible. Auspicious concho, breaking through the ether, transcendental sound vibration, means that they're all dependent. Prabhupada uses the term a few purports back. It will all be crushed to dust. Right? So at some level, and then pashinapina pashi means we see that, but we don't see it. Like we see it, but we don't get it. We don't realize it. Maharaj Yudhisthira, responding to Narada Muni, Ahani Hani Bhutani, Narada Muni asks him, what's the most wonderful thing in the world, the most amazing thing? And Yudhisthira says that people see, like every day, every moment, like every living being will die, every body will die. But still they're acting as if they're not going to die. That's the most amazing thing. They see, but they don't get it. Pashanapi na pashati. Okay. And so, all right. So only when our shelter is that which is independent of any shelter. That's why Bhagavatam starts and continues throughout. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Oh my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, all-pervading personality of Godhead, offer my respectful obeisance unto you. Janma Dhyasa Yaton Vayadi Charatash Tertesh Vabigeshu Svara. Prabhupada emphasizes that word a lot. Vyasadeva emphasizes that word a lot. Svara. Apparently the Indian independence movement in the 1940s was called Swaraj. Independence. Prabhupada would sometimes say, and they succeeded. They got independence from the British. And the Prabhupada would say, then like a year or two later, when the Indians were managing things, then sometimes the Indians would go. So I wonder if we could ask the British to come back. So anyhow, so right. So we can do this political movement, that political movement, and I think maybe everyone here is familiar with when Prabhupada first met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Prabhupada had a friend of his, Narendra Mullik. Prabhupada said he dragged me to meet, because Prabhupada had become cynical about so-called saintly and sadhus. He'd seen a lot of cheating. So Prabhupada was in his early 20s at the time, but he agreed because his friend was enthusiastic, Narendra. So we're here discussing Bhagavad because of Narendra Mullik, Narendra Mullik. So Prabhupada, they came in and, just the polite thing to do. So Prabhupada, Abhay Charan, offered obeisances. And before he could even get up from offering obeisances, Bhaktisiddhanta gave him his life mission. You should preach Lord Chaitanya's message in the English-speaking world. You might think first he would have said, hello, how are you doing? Or something like that. But now, so Prabhupada argued. And he goes, well, who's going to listen? So we can see that Prabhupada, he's a devotee of Lord Chaitanya from birth, from appearance, more technically. His father, Gaur Mohan Dey, is reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. And so that's what Prabhupada grew up with, of course, eternally. But Prabhupada said, but who's going to listen as long as India is a dependent country? And Bhaktisiddhanta said, this message is not dependent on any political movement. This is eternal, this is universal. So when Prabhupada and Narendra Nath left, Prabhupada said to his friend, the message of Lord Chaitanya is in good hands. And then Prabhupada would later, when he would describe his story, he would say, I argued and I was happily defeated. So Prabhupada's name, Abhay Charan, and then when he got officially initiated, the name was expanded to Abhay Charanaravinda. The meaning, as I understand, is basically the same. And it relates to what we're talking about, one who takes shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. So that's security. One who is fearless, Abhaya. One who is fearless, taking shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. right? So it means that's security. And anything else, we're going to be insecure. And well, if I could, no, I'll be secure if I could just be a little higher on the food chain, because there's these, like, I'm enjoying to a certain level and some people envy me. That's nice. That's nice, because I don't say that, but then there's people higher on the food chain in the social circle, or there's even social circles that, like, they don't even invite me. I'll make it like I'm not bothered, but if I could just be like in that social circle, whoa, that'd be security. That'd be security. So Bhagavatam saying, no. Bhagavatam saying, no, that's just going to result in more food chain stuff. More food chain stuff. But Bhagavatam saying, like, use this lifetime to get over that nonsense. Use this lifetime to get over that nonsense. And so Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmanyasya Tumbaya Vichatashrate Shvavideshu Svara. So Vyasadeva starts Bhagavatam. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth. He's directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. He's the cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of all the material universe. And he's completely independent because there is no cause beyond him. Svara, completely independent. Okay. So then that is safe shelter. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Dhira Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Lord Brahma starts Brahma Samhita with offering full honor to Ishvara Parama. Krishna is the supreme controller with a body, a transcendental body consisting of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, consciousness and bliss. And Dhira Govinda, he's the beginning of everything. And he has no beginning. Sarva Karana Karanam, he's the cause of all causes. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Matapara Taram Nanya Kinshirasti Dhananjaya Maya Sarvamidam Protam Sutrimani Gana Eva. He says, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests on me as pearls are strung on a thread. Okay, so the pearls are dependent on the thread. In that analogy, it's an analogy Krishna used. So then we, through this bhakti yoga, through studying Bhagavatam, through chanting Hare Krishna, then we get to more and more see the thread. So Adibhatik, Adidevik, Adhyatmik, the whole food chain thing. What's behind it? What's the thread behind it all? That's not dependent on it. It's not dependent on everything. So that's Krishna. That's Krishna. And so then Krishna says, Sumedasaha. It says that the truly great souls take shelter in Krishna. Mahatmanas tumam parta devim prakritim ashrita bhajant yananya manaso gatva buddhatim avyayam. The truly great souls take shelter in Krishna's internal energy. All this food chain stuff, that's trying to take shelter of the external energy, taking shelter in that which will be crushed into dust by time. Right? And it's an insecure position, as much as we may want to put on an I got it together face. For the soul to actually experience security, it's not just about putting out the fires, or, well, I fixed that problem, or the miseries are less today than yesterday. Here's eternal security, the true Mahatmanas Tumambrata Devi. So taking shelter of the internal energy. What's the internal energy? That's bhakti. That's devotional service. That's bhakti. Just like here in text 16, it's described as the followers of a king follow their Lord. Similarly, when the total energy is in motion. So that total energy, that's the external energy. All other living entities move. And when the total energy stops endeavoring, all other living entities stop sensual activities. So basically, Brahmayan Sarvabhutani Videshar Junatishtati. What's the third line? Yanchaudani Maya. Yes. It means machine, yantra, machine. So this describes the machine moves and we're just on the machine and we follow, and if we're on the machine in maybe a relatively higher mode, then we're feeling a little happier than those who are on the machine in a relatively lower mode. Like, yeah, I'm happier than the birds and the worms. That's lower mode. And so the idea is to not be satisfied with just like a little higher on the food chain. Let's take shelter in that where we will not need to accept another material body that's intrinsically filled with miseries of birth, death, old age, disease. That's intelligence. Krishna Vardam Tisha Krishnam Sango Pangasta Parshadam Yage Sankirtanam Prayer Yajanti Sume Dasaha. So Bhagavatam describes intelligent people take shelter in the internal energy in the Sankirtan movement. Sume Dasa means superior intelligence. And that's not dependent on any material education or letters next to one's name. So we have a chance to be fearless, follow Prabhupada, Abhaya, to be fearless. And that generally that requires association, just like we got 7 of us in human bodies here in person. You can hear some spirit souls and bird bodies outside, and another 10 or 12 online. So through association of others, endeavoring to become truly great souls by taking shelter, not to give up the foolishness of trying to be secure in the external energy. And then it's the society of the cheaters and the cheated. You'll be secure if you just buy my product. Don't you get that? Like that, oh, yes, I'll be your friend. That's why Prabhupada signs his letters, your ever well-wisher. So Prabhupada knows how to be an actual ever well-wisher, because he's bringing us to true shelter, to true security. So we can also be true friends and not cheating false friends by dedicating ourselves in all aspects of relationship to bringing people to Srila Prabhupada. That's safe. That's where we can feel completely clean, guilt-free. We know we're not cheating. We're bringing people to chant Hare Krishna, bring people to Bhagavatam, bring people to Prabhupada. It can take other forms. Bring people to Prasadam. It can take different forms. But bring people to the true substratum of all existence, that shelter, that cause that has no cause, that's not part of the food chain. Then that's real relief. That's a true happiness for the soul, not just putting on a secure facade to sell something. Everything else is cheating. Society of the cheaters and the cheated. So the process for this, fortunately, is given. Satatam kirtayantumam yatantas chadritavrata namasyantas chamam nityam nitya yukta upasate satatam kirtayantumam. Kirtan, which can mean with musical instruments and singing. But Prabhupada says, if we're discussing the philosophy of Bhagavatam, that's kirtan. If in any way we're encouraging, inspiring people in self-discovery, in connection with super soul, by whatever terms we use, that's kirtan. And dritavrata so it's one thing, I like bhakti, it's cool. And sometimes I like to chant, so that's all nice. And then Bhagavad Gita emphasizes. And if we wanna like solidly progress out of false shelter, out of foolishness, out of the madhouse, towards towards the actual security of true shelter, then it's recommended. Make a vow and fulfill it with enthusiasm. Utsaha nishtaya daya tat karma pravartana. Sangachagat sato vride sabhi bhakti punish prasidati. Might have got a few words wrong there. So Rupa Goswami says that the core quality to advance in this process, and the recommendation is, if be intelligent, at least want to advance in this process. Okay, then we can lament like, I'm not so sincere, but like at least in principle, I want to advance towards true shelter. So it's Rupa Goswami, core quality, first quality, utsaha, enthusiasm. And Prabhupada defines enthusiasm not necessarily as rah-rah, like cheerleader, could look that way, but enthusiasm, endeavor, executed with intelligence. It's very, very grounded definition. And enthusiasm means that, I kind of slipped into the pit again. I slipped down the slippery slope. I wasn't as disciplined as I wanted to be, or whatever. Or things went nice, that we don't get elated in a way that distracts us when things are going nice, materially or spiritually. And we don't get discouraged or distracted when there's a loss in any way. Enthusiasm means enthusiasm, also patience. Enthusiasm, patience, confidence in the process. Enthusiastic patience that whatever things are going well, not well, I did pretty well yesterday. There's a financial loss, a financial gain. We continue with enthusiasm in this real process to move us to real security, which everyone's looking for. We can take any of thousands of coaching sessions or facilitating scenarios. Right, so everyone's looking for real shelter. Everyone's looking for real shelter. Hare Krishna. Thanks for your presence and attention. Hare Krishna. I welcome any questions or comments at this time. Eze.
I want to make a few comments. One, when you said about being dependent on that which is dependent, and like it makes so much sense to me practically. Like if I think, oh, my happiness at any moment might be dependent on like the Wi-Fi working.
The
or,
Wi-Fi
okay,
working.
the weather is the way that I want it to be, or the person I'm calling is available to answer the phone and talk. And I see how fragile that system for happiness is, because any factor can not be the way that I want, and then my happiness is not there because it's dependent on
a million factors.
On a million factors that have been subsequently dependent on other factors, and it's like a very very fragile system.
Very fragile,
So I appreciate seeing it that way. And I also wanted to comment when you said Prabhupada told his friend, I don't remember his name, Lord Chaitanya's message is in good hands. For me, I hear the double meaning. He was talking about Bhaktisiddhanta. The way I hear it, he was talking about himself.
Okay.
So I appreciate that. And then I wanted to complete the analogy that you said about like the man searching for the keys. And it's like a police officer finds a guy like crawling on the ground, seemingly looking for something. He says, oh, what's going on? And he says, oh, I'm looking for my keys. So the officer says, oh, so you dropped them here? And he says, no, I dropped them in the alley, but the light is much better here. I can still see how I search for things, not necessarily where they are, but where it's like more convenient or something.
Hare Krishna, Eze. Thanks very much for that. Thanks for all those points. Because in any project, externally, success, there's millions and millions of factors, and they all need to come together perfectly for it to happen. And often it does, because the demigods cooperate. But if we think about it, right, just like, okay, just when I say millions, well, that's an exaggeration. It's not an exaggeration. Just this body, right? Because any project, just this body, right? Like any corpuscle, right? Like there's millions of ways we could get sick at any moment. We could get devastated, and then I'm not able to function. And usually in most projects, other people are involved. So there's millions of ways, or their house, their car, millions of things. Millions of things could happen. And so clear intention, then, upajastu mantucha, Bharta Bhakta Maheshwara, Paramatmeti Chaputo Desmin Pushapara. The super soul's the overseer and the facilitator. And so with our clear intention, according to our karma, super soul will arrange the millions of things in the material energy for things to work out or not, depending on so many factors. And so we want to pursue everything with enthusiasm, do our dharma, our duty responsibly. And at the same time, if we're dependent for my sense of happiness or peace or security on the millions of things working out, that's a losing proposition. Thank you, Eze. Other questions, comments, sharing? Payal. Hare Krishna.
Share a comment, and then it's sort of a question, maybe a comment too. This morning I woke up and I was feeling a little tired, and I've committed to coming once a week, and there's a part of me that's just like, I'm like, that's gonna be the same. Like, I wake up, we're gonna go, we're gonna sing, and like, we're gonna do class, and that was the story in my mind.
Your mind was doing that, yeah.
Yeah, like I could just not come.
Right.
It'll be okay. And then I felt some guilt because this week I've been just waking up and doing a little bit of work, and Kwana's been helping with Zion in the morning.
Yeah.
So just feeling a little guilt. I'm like, I could stay and like be with Zion, and everything will be okay.
Yes.
I'm feeling a lot of gratitude that I actually made the choice to still come, even though my mind told me not to.
You're appreciating yourself for not giving power to your mind there.
Yes, and just your class of like, where is the most enriching to take shelter in Krishna.
Yep.
And I'm just noticing like it's so easy for me to take shelter in other places, and like how quick, like to be in class and to feel a certain way, and to feel like, okay, I'm taking shelter, to be chanting with Prabhupada, yes, I'm taking shelter, but like the minute I read something else, it's like so quick for me not to be taking shelter.
Yes.
So that was, I'm appreciating being here. Thank you. And I had a question around, you mentioned like briefly patience.
Patience, yeah.
And so I guess I'm wondering like, what role does patience play in us taking shelter?
What role does patience play? Okay, thanks for that. Good question. And I guess hearing your question, Payal, I'm thinking of humility. I think it goes together, and I think there's many bona fide responses to this, but hearing your question, for me, it relates to humility, because it's kind of like, well, I've been chanting Hare Krishna for like a week now, and like, I'm not completely blissful. So I think I'll try something else. It can be, it can be like, like that, where it's kind of like patience with ourselves. Because like, I feel confident saying, I've been in the material sojourn, maybe for just hundreds and hundreds of trillions of lifetimes of universes and so many species. And so like I've got a mind and ego really entrenched. And so just, well, I chanted, and well, of course I'm sincere. It's like, well, not that sincere. It's in other words, like, yeah, the process for most everyone's going to take a while to work, to work in a deep way. I mean, it does happen, like someone has no contact and they come in and just like, there's this kirtan and they're ecstatic and like, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. I've shared in these forums when I first moved into an ashram outside of Tel Aviv in Renana, Israel. My first several days, I was a pure devotee. Oh, Rukmini's here, so she might say, well, wait, don't comment. Okay. So, and anyhow, but no, I was like ecstatic like that. I was like, wow, yeah, whoa, this is a joyful success. But then it was like, kind of like a week or two, and then just my mind started to attack. Like, are you an idiot? What are you doing here? Like, yeah, it's good. Is this even real? And just and every sentence of Prabhupada's books, which till then were like, wow, every sentence of Prabhupada's, oh, I have like painful doubts like that. Yeah, so kind of like patience. Let's not be sahajya, meaning like I want the ecstasy now. If it's not there, then like I'll go back to what I was doing. So it's like, yeah, if we're conscious, we'll notice perhaps imperceptibly there's some maybe some ecstatic joy, but some shift can be an uncomfortable shift. And nartas things that were in my heart that is junk I wasn't even aware of is coming up because I'm in the process. So if I'm not patient and not humble, then I might run away. But patience means, yeah, I got probably a lot. I got years, decades, lifetimes, centuries of junk in the heart. So it's going, and I'm not that surrendered. It's going to take some time to deal with this. So let me continue with enthusiasm, including when it's like painful and there's not that ecstasy. In the Christian tradition, we read the Christian saints, they talk about the dark night of the soul. Means like, you know, whether it's Saint Teresa or Saint Thomas of the Cross, that they'll go through years or decades. They're not feeling the ecstasy of Jesus's, you know, whatever, but their love is shown that they continue with patience.
Or connecting patience with humility.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for that. It's also, it ties back to when we talked about, I think on this week, it was like meekness and humbleness. And,
Yes.
and patience and humbleness tying to like, well, who's the real controller?
Yeah.
Not me.
Mm.
Krishna can take 4 years.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Paya. I'm gonna Damayanti, then Parampara.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Damayanti.
I was just thinking in response, well, in addition to the discussion, Hare Krishna, everybody, about patience. Well, like, you know, we're talking about like connecting with God in a personal way. And even if we're sincere, Krishna has his timing too of when he wants to have us experience surrender, shelter, like faith in him. So it's like a co-creation, like the experience of, oh, I made it, you know, I've made it, I'm taking shelter now, finally, or something. And we may even be taking shelter, but just not feel it. So I don't know, just broadening it out to like patience with Krishna, patience with, you know, our feelings. Anyway, yeah, that Krishna is a factor in like this experience of like Krishna consciousness, because it's personal and he might not want to reveal. Maybe we have been sincere for a long time or praying or trying, and yet it's just some reason it's not time yet to have that breakthrough or experience surrender. So yeah, patience with Krishna's timing. That's just a comment.
Thank you, Damayanti. Thanks much for that. Yeah, because I focused on patience with ourselves, but also patience with kind of like, okay, Krishna, look, I got up early, I wear the neck beads. Where is the mercy? It was like, as you pointed out, the obvious, which you might not see, like in Krishna consciousness, Krishna is a factor. Krishna the person, and like Krishna is, you know, sometimes testing in a loving way, and so you know, so Krishna has his timing, which generally is beyond our purview. Thanks very much for that element. Parampara.
Just inspired to share a little bit of my experience in so like thinking of the relationship between like this patient, gradual process, hearing from authority and practicing sadhana, regular principles. There's like that part. And then there's, dealing with the doubts and kind of evidence, maybe like the more, that's kind of one part. And then there's like, just the bliss, the ecstasy, like the kirtan, the taste, when you get the taste, the ruchi, and we can get the, they can be both together and everything like that. But we're speaking about like being patient and maybe this dark night of the soul, where maybe we're in that process, the one side, and we're not experiencing the bliss and the ecstasy and the taste. And so my experience lately is, and so for some it could be just like abandon this long, slow, gradual thing and just go find the taste wherever the taste is. But the taste is so important. Like especially in the early stages, it's easy to get the taste, and sometimes it just comes. It's like it's causeless, And so sometimes we just get a gift of just like, here's the mercy. You're just there, and it's like blissful experience, and that helps us, move along. Or especially in the early stages, it's just naturally blissful, like you're sharing. And then what I've thought of and experienced a little bit, not that I'm doing it now, but a little glimpse, is similar to like in coaching when we're talk about, like the relationship between the action, being balanced in action. And like, there's like the, steady commitment, like baby step process, gradual process. And there's like the stretch process. And like, okay, so maybe when someone's coaching or in our lives, we look at like, all right, I'm trying to do these big stretchy actions and they're not working. I just need to focus on the gradual, like where's the imbalance there? Like somebody on the other side, maybe so I'm focusing on these baby steps, but I need some real stretchy action, like
some quantum jump
to push me out. And my experience is, so with Krishna consciousness and devotional practice, that that's an opportunity to get to taste, to get a taste, to feel the bliss, is to stretch ourselves. And when I've had this experience that, I was just kind of given this gift, this mercy of like, waking up early in the morning and chanting super early and super blissful, and it was like amazing. And then I was like, okay, I was clear, like, okay, I need to stretch myself to try to create that, like to get that taste again. I want that taste. So it seems that that's a possible, like, it's a possible way to go. Like if we notice ourselves like feeling kind of stagnant or not feeling the taste, like Paul was sharing, like you have to stretching yourself to come to the program you don't want to or whatever, and getting some taste. And so and for others that may be different, like follow the inspiration, follow the taste, go and find the taste, but not abandon the gradual process.
The heavy lifting day to day.
Yeah, right.
Thanks for that. Ultimately, coaching is about super soul connection. So I like that framework that you're applying here. That's sometimes when we look at it, okay, let's be patient and rigorous in the baby steps I do each day, and sometimes like, okay, let me how can I stretch myself this week? How can I stretch myself this month? What might be a quantum jump that I know is going to move me to greater taste with Krishna's mercy? And sometimes like, let's not look for all the quantum jumps. Let's just get up by 5 a.m. and that sort of thing.
Yeah, just related to stages and state of consciousness also, that so like we want to be cultivating a stage of consciousness. And my experience or sense is that it's also maybe beneficial to go for the state, like let me go for chant 16 rounds, or just go on Harinam, or just go do wild kirtan, or whatever, whatever it is, to like to get that taste.
Thank you, Parampara. Ladini Shakti. Hare Krishna.
I also want to add to this conversation, and like for me, it's not so much about taste, but about common sense. like all the instructions that Prabhupada is giving, it just like makes more sense than anything else.
Yeah.
So it's just like, and as the first step is the faith, like the conviction, like this makes sense. And then, yeah, sometimes this like, you know, do I feel taste, or what's my motivation, things, or when do I get the taste to get motivation to continue? It can, like in my experience, it can be like taking me away.
Yeah.
Rather than like, okay, like this makes sense. So how can I like practice in such a way that it's like sufficient steady progress, like and also and where there is my taste, that's clear,
Yeah.
is when I'm not looking for it.
Okay.
When I'm like looking for like how can I support others to get the treasure that I got, and then automatically it's so relishable. And as soon as I go like, well, let me go on Sankirtan because that will make me feel better.
Yeah.
It's like a guarantee that I will feel totally miserable. But as soon as I'm like really coming from, I want to
share, I want to serve, yeah.
then it's so blissful for the soul. So it's like, it's always like, and where am I, like, of course it's unhelpful questions, like where am I at, how can I progress, how can I get taste? It's definitely like so much better than most other thought processes, but it's about me.
Yeah. It can still be a self-absorption, my spiritual taste, and like that. So thanks for that emphasis. Yeah, that we're serving others to move towards being a Mahatma somehow or other, then the taste is there without thinking about it.
Yeah, and like not worry too much about like where am I at?
Yes. Yes. Right. Was someone remind who was the one who was fanning Krishna and got frustrated with his own ecstasy? Who was it?
Akhura, maybe?
Akhura. I think it was Akhura, yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. So he was fanning Krishna and he was crying, but his ecstasy was getting in the way of doing the service of fanning. So he was cursing the tears of ecstasy. He was like, because he didn't care about the ecstasy. He just wanted to serve, and this is getting in the way. So that's an example.
I had similar experience today morning, like first I had an emotional breakdown.
Yeah.
And then the emotional breakdown was taking too long, and I realized that I would be late for the program. And then I had another emotional breakdown that I would be late for group. So then my fears were getting in the way of my service.
In the line of Akhura. Hare Krishna. Anandini.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I'm appreciating this conversation, and what comes to me is like, so we speak of, or here in the verse, it's about where do we take shelter? Do we take shelter in something that's eternal and something that's not eternal? And I was always looking for, or meditating on, or I don't know, just looking at it, I need to take shelter in God, in Krishna. And recently I started to meditate on, well, what does it mean to take shelter in devotional service? Because taking shelter in Krishna sometimes feels quite abstract to me, and I don't know where the shelter is, or sometimes I don't feel sheltered. I don't feel any emotional connection or security. And I feel like I don't have any control over that. And devotional service, I have control over that. I can always choose that.
Yes.
And I do feel shelter in that. So I'm, wondering about that, and maybe someone has something to share, or maybe you have a comment about that. taking shelter in Krishna or taking shelter in devotional service?
Thank you, Nandini. I appreciate very much your comment because they're non-different. Krishna is fully present in his devotional service, and it's more practical. But taking shelter in Krishna, for me also, can be abstract. So that's why Prabhupada emphasizes we take shelter in Krishna by, like Ladini was sharing, by enthusiasm, sincerity to do devotional service. That is what it means to take shelter in Krishna, and chanting Krishna's names, fulfilling our japa commitment. This is devotional service. Devotional service starts with Shravanam Kirtanam, thinking, okay, how can I share Prabhupada's movement? What can I do? Discussing this philosophy, preparing prasad, distributing prasad, absorbing ourselves, being in transcendental anxiety about the details of how am I going to do devotional service. That is taking shelter in Krishna. So Krishna is his devotional service, and that is practically how we take shelter of him. So I like that you brought that, because that, for me, does make it more practical. Take shelter in Krishna, the person. Doesn't mean so much for me. Thank you, Anandini.
Thank you. And I wanted to share just a little comment, something that someone once shared with me, that his endeavor is to show to Krishna that he's reliable. So that's like his meditation. He said, I'm just doing all this to show to Krishna I'm here and I'm reliable. And I found that very inspiring, and a very inspiring perspective on keeping commitments, to show I'm here no matter what.
Thanks for that. I like that, because that can help us. Well, today I don't feel like chanting rounds. I don't have a taste. Well, maybe not. And I'm showing Krishna, showing Prabhupada. Reliable means whether I feel like it or not, I'm fulfilling my commitment. I once heard someone give a class decades ago, but he was saying when he goes to the temple to see the deity, he says he doesn't go to the temple to see the deity. He goes to the temple so the deity can see me. He goes okay, do I really see the deity? It's a whole, okay. He goes, but okay, look, Srimati Radharani Krishna, I'm showing up. I'm showing up, and I do this every day. So I like that. Thank you, Anandini. Malini.
Hi, Krishna. I want to comment on Pat Parampa's comment.
Yeah.
Ladini's following up comment.
Yeah.
It seems that there is a balance there, because it is our responsibility in Bhakti Yoga to be satisfied. To be satisfied. Satisfied doesn't mean that we anchor, materially anchor for the test or the ecstasy, because that will bring the same result than we do that for material. Okay, if I go to the party on Saturday night, I'm going to be happy. Or if I, stretch myself and go 9am, I will be happy. And so, because the danger of doing that is not to be. I'm going to chant more round, I'm going to go on Sankirtan, like Ladini said, and I'm calculating that that's going to bring me the test for Krishna consciousness. And then the danger of that is that the test doesn't necessarily come. And then I give up my endeavor because I'm not getting the test, and then I'm going to find tests somewhere else.
Yes.
So that's a balance of principle here. While also it's so important in Bhakti Yoga to be responsible, to be satisfied, and to be responsible to do, I was speaking with someone not so long ago. Well, if I don't like to read one of the book of Prabhupada, read the book I like to read. If there is one of the 9 processes that feel more satisfying than another, then do that to really also be responsible for our satisfaction without anchoring for the test, which could be dangerous because bhakti is independent. So bhakti is independent, devotional service is never mechanical. I had so many experiences of like, okay, I had that experience, let me do the same thing I did the last time, and it doesn't like Ladini said, because it's not a mechanical process, and to do that again is dangerous, while also taking care, like the austerity of the mind. It's all about austerity. Results don't come without any austerity, and the austerity of the mind is to be satisfied. So let me see, how can I be responsible to be satisfied, not for the sake of receiving taste or ecstasy, for the sake of doing devotional service and be satisfied. Yeah.
Thanks for that. That vital point, Melanie, that aspect. Thanks for emphasizing that. To be responsible, to be happy in Krishna consciousness, and for some that might mean, okay, yeah, let me learn some shlokas. For some might be, let me pay a bhajan. For some might be, let me take a walk and chant that. Let me offer a flower to Prabhupada. That somehow or other to be responsible, to be satisfied in Krishna consciousness. And that's Bhagavad Gita. It's an austerity of the mind to be satisfied, to be simple and satisfied. Okay? Oh my God, no. The mind is dedicated. I'm going to find something. I'm going to find 100 things to be disturbed about now. So it's like, it requires really restraining that to be simple and satisfied. That's part of our process in Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much, Malini.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Malini. I want to go back to Anandini's comment. And Damayanti had raised the hand and now it disappeared. So I want
Thumbs
to
up.
mention it.
Yeah, thumbs up.
Oh, it was a thumb up.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Anandini's comment. Yes, Anandini, I'm touched by your process about meditating, about what, like taking shelter of Krishna. Krishna is non-dependent of his service, and it's like so much more practical. I can relate to that, and it's touching me the way how you worded it. And then the discussion went into it, like how can I serve, like how. And I'm also often thinking about it because sometimes it seems that my life is like putting me in direction that is not like, it's illusion, but it feels like, well, I should do something different that would be more service. But what I am like really connecting to recently a lot is like doing things well.
Doing things well, like to really strive for excellence.
Yes, like no matter what I am doing, and whether like externally it looks like devotional service or not, like really like focus on like doing everything that I do like well. Yeah. And that helps me to like feel in the service mood rather than like, how can I like wash the dishes as quickly as possible? Like,
and get on to the next service.
Get to the really important service.
Right. The really important service is what's in front of us this moment. Yes. And that might be washing the dishes. It might be caring for a family member, and to do that with consciousness, then Prabhupada and Krishna, then they're pleased. Otherwise, it's like mode of rajas. Let me get to the real service. That's a complete illusion. Complete illusion.
Go ahead. I just wanted to say that, yes, that Ladini Shakti Prabhu, she's a great example of that. She does everything with so much love. I have been the recipient of that love for 3 months, and it's difficult for me because I feel so undeserving of so much quality service. And at the same time, it's been so inspiring and enriching and growth promoting for me to just watch you. And tomorrow you're going back to Europe, and I'm happy for all the people you're going to serve over there because they are lucky. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hari Bol. Thank you all for this inspiring association. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.